So we can all read this together. 1, 2, 3. Inasmuch as many have undertaken to compile a narrative of the things that have been accomplished among us, just as those who from the beginning were eyewitnesses and ministers of the word have delivered them to us, it seemed good to me also, having followed all things closely for some time past, to write an orderly account for you, most excellent Theophilus, that you may have certainty concerning the things you have been taught. So Luke, as you know, that Luke is the writer of Luke, this book Luke, and also the book of Acts, and a companion of Paul. And we see that Luke is writing here again. Now, Luke is writing, this is the gospel, one of the 4 books. Luke is one of the 4 books, and each book has its own uniqueness, but all the books are unified as the gospel of Jesus Christ. So the book of Luke is one of them. Now, the important thing about the book of Luke, since this is the first part of the book of Luke that we are learning today, the book of Luke here, Luke is trying to reinstate the gospel of Jesus Christ. Reinstate means trying to explain it in a more clear way to somebody, a more clear way, not because the other who wrote the gospel or preached the gospel did not do well. It does not mean that, but it means Luke is targeting someone or some group of people. So he is restating for more clarity. That's what this book of Luke is about. And then we see that next, in my opinion, there are various opinions to whom this letter or this message is given to. Here we see Theophilus is a person, a name. So we have different understanding. Scholarly works have different conclusions, that it can be a person, it can be a group of people. But in my opinion, my understanding is that Theophilus represents a person in the past. As Theophilus, in front of Theophilus here in the Bible text is mentioned, most excellent Theophilus. So an adjective is used, excellent. So this excellent is also used in the book of Acts, written by the same person, Luke, to address or to talk to somebody who is of a high position or high rank. In Acts chapter 23, Acts chapter 24, Acts chapter 26, we see the same expression used for someone in a high rank. So in my opinion, I take the view that Theophilus, who is mentioned in this book of Luke and also in the book of Acts, is a person. And that person is of high rank, has some position. And I do believe that he may not necessarily be a Jew, Israelite. He might possibly be a non-Jew. The reason being, in the book of Luke, very uniquely, Luke is talking about a particular group. But before then, he's addressing this very person, the person Theophilus. Okay, so like that. So now the next third question here is, why is Luke writing or giving this message to Theophilus when it's mentioned that Theophilus was already taught about Jesus Christ? What we learn from Acts chapter 1 is that in the book of Luke, Acts writes about what Jesus did, what Jesus taught, how Jesus suffered, how Jesus died, how Jesus resurrected, how Jesus' proof came alive, and the whole story about Jesus is true. That is the message here in the book of Luke as explained in Acts chapter 1. So here in the verse 4, we see that Luke is writing to Theophilus to make sure that Theophilus will have more confidence of the gospel teaching he was taught. So maybe, this is my assumption, this is my thinking of, maybe Theophilus was a non-Jew. He was a non-Jew, and also being in a high position, living in the Romans time, the Roman Empire time, maybe, and he was taught the gospel, but in his context, maybe there is chance, or there are possibilities that Theophilus might wonder if the teaching is true, or if it's possible that his faith may be affected or hindered. So look, in advance, beforehand, he's trying to give confidence to Theophilus of what he learned about Jesus Christ. Okay, so that's how it is. And we'll move on to the next slide. And in the next slides, furthermore, can we move to the next? Thank you so much. So in the next slide, in this book of Luke, as we know that Luke is writing a message to Theophilus. So does it mean to say the book, if this book, the book of Luke, is written to Theophilus, does it mean to say that this is not a message to any of us? Well, that's not. The book of Luke is in the Bible, and every book in the Bible was written to an audience at that time. But whatever is in the Bible is written for us. So in the same manner, the book of Luke, although it was written to Theophilus, it is written for us today. And that's what we can understand. For us Christians today. But before then, if Theophilus was in the time of Roman Empire, and Theophilus heard the gospel already, he had heard before Luke explained to him even more. And if Theophilus was in a high position, that means there was a possibility that Luke was also re-explaining, restating the gospel, so that through Theophilus, the gospel of Jesus Christ could be spread more in the Roman Empire at that time. So that's what we can also understand. Next, why did I say that? This book of Luke is very focused on one group. The reason being, in the book of Luke, unlike the other gospels, in the other books, in the book of Luke, instead of saying Jesus Christ, the Christ for Israelites or for Israel, the focus is always as Jesus Christ, the Savior of the world. So which means Luke is trying to tell that the salvation of Jesus Christ is not only for Jews, but even for non-Jews, Gentiles like the Romans, and even today for people like us, the gospel of Jesus is also for us. Every bit of suffering Jesus took, and for Jesus to resurrect, for Jesus to come and alive, and for eyewitnesses to see Jesus, every bit of that evidence is also for us. So that's what we can understand from the book of Luke. And the next thing about the book of Luke is that since the book of Luke is telling, just hearing the gospel is not enough. We need to contextualize the gospel and learn deeper. Like Theophilus, you need to learn deeper. So I will explain to you deeper so that I can make sure that your understanding of the gospel it does not get confused, or instead, rather your faith and your belief, your confidence in the gospel of Jesus Christ should become strong and firm. So like that, for all of us today, the gospel of Jesus saved us. By hearing, we believed. But that's not enough. Just because we are saved, it does not mean to say we don't need to hear and learn the gospel of Jesus deeper. It does not mean we just go and evangelize to anybody. No, that's not it. If we are saved by the gospel of Jesus, by hearing the gospel of Jesus, by believing, which is the grace of God, it is important for the saved people who heard the gospel to learn deeper about the gospel of Jesus Christ. That is, how Jesus lived, what Jesus did, what Jesus taught, and how did he suffer, how did he die, and why did he die? Did he resurrect? If he resurrected, where are the proofs? And How do we say that the story of Jesus was not just a fictional story? How do we know that this is true? We need to grow deeper as believers too. And that way our faith confidence would be strong. Then we can truly evangelize to others too. Especially today in this world, youngsters, those who are young, are not emotional like before. In the past, if the head of the family, the head of the community became a Christian, when they became Christian, all the younger ones simply just followed. But these days, individualism, independence, self-relying, self-dependence, society has changed. The wife is not really dependent on the husband like before. Wives can also be independent because of the economy, because of the lifestyle. So like that, even the younger ones, they don't simply become Christians or believe in Jesus just because of their parents. It is important for us to explain to them the questions they have. We cannot say, I have authority over you, that's why you must become a Christian, go to church, believe in Jesus, because I'm your father, I'm your mother, I'm older than you. That's wrong. We have to know the gospel of Jesus very well, understand it very well, and then when they have questions, we should be ready to explain it very well. Like Luke is explaining a high-ranking person, a known Jew, most possibly. We must also be ready to explain. Polemics, apologetics, defending the faith, doing offense in Christian faith, defending Christian faith and offense, both are required. So as believer, it is a good opportunity for non-Jews like us to study the book of Luke very well, because this is our context. We are not from Israel. We are from a different place. And the people around us are like the same. They are Gentiles like us. So the book of Luke can really reaffirm our faith very deeply, and also for us to explain the gospel of Jesus Christ as Jesus as the universal savior of the world. We can explain it very well. So we'll move on to the last slide. So the last slide is, let us study the gospel of Jesus Christ deeper, especially starting with the book of Luke. Let's go deeper. The contextualization is very close to us. So that's the message for today. And the message for today is, there is the book of Luke that addresses the known Jews, the Gentiles, explaining the gospel of Jesus, that Jesus is the savior of the world. Not only the Jews, all of us. But even if you're saved, you need to learn the gospel of Jesus even more deeper. So that's the message for today. So as a conclusion, let's sing the song Redeemed. And as we sing the song Redeemed, let's remember proclaiming